Yes, Rabbi.
Great. Baruch Hashem. Chasdei Hashem Yisbarach. We are in Pirkei Avos, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Chet and Tet. Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai v'Shimon ben Shetach kiblu mehem. Yehuda ben Tabai omer, Al tas atzmacha ka'orchei hadayanim. Don't make yourself like those who arrange the laws, like lawyers. And when those who come to court are standing before you, you should treat them as if they're wicked. And when they are free from you, when they leave you, you should see them as if they are honest, are full of merit. So long as they receive, it's accepted upon themselves the din. Just pause for a second. I'm going to go into the next Mishnah. Shimon ben Shetach omer, you should increasingly interrogate the witnesses, and you should be very careful in your words, lest from amongst your words, mitocham yilmadu l'shaker. So we're going to go through this Mishnah on two levels. We're going to first go through the Mishnah on the level of Pshat, and just explain each section of what it means on a Pshat level. And then we're going to, both these Mishnahs together and the connection between them, we're going to see Al Derech Avoda. We're going to see a whole different Mahalach, Al Derech Avodas Hashem. So just to start off with some diuk questions and then to get into the big question. So it starts off by saying, don't make yourself like a lawyer. So that phrase, just from a grammatical perspective, there's many things you could change there. First of all, the word atzmacha you could totally leave out. And also the kaf hadimayon seems to be irrelevant. It would have been much, if it's coming to tell you that you shouldn't be a lawyer, and we'll explain what that means in a second, but if it's coming to tell you not to be a lawyer in an illegitimate way, then it should have just said, al tihiyu orchei hadinim. Just very straightforward. Don't arrange the law. Now what is this arranging the law referring to? So Rabbeinu Yonah, the Rambam, they all speak about it, and they describe it as someone who, we're not talking about someone who's wicked here and someone who's evil. It's not someone who's saying that you, advising you to lie in a court. That wouldn't make it to Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos is telling you not the basic halacha, but midas chasidus, musar, avodas Hashem. It wouldn't say in here, don't lie in a court. That would be absolutely forbidden, pashut. Rather, it's coming to say that there are times when people come to court and they don't know exactly how to make their claim. And there are other people who come to help them. Now, Rabbeinu Yonah says they may come to help them because they recognize that the other side, the people are wicked and are trying to harm them. The Rambam, that's the Rambam. The Rambam says, Afal pi sheyedabo shehu ashuk. Even though you know that this person is being attacked, and the other person who's claiming against your friend is lying. And all you're coming to do is coming to protect your friend. You're still not allowed to come to your friend and say, when the Dayan says this, then you should say that. And when the other guy says this, you should say this. And even though what you're doing is just coming to protect your friend, therefore you're being righteous, you're doing a good thing, a little bit like Robin Hood in some sense. You're coming to do a good thing and protect your friend. It's forbidden to do that. You're not allowed to leave the truth in any way. And the way that Rabbeinu Yonah says it is that you're really not doing anything bad. Lo yelmadu sheker, you're not teaching him to lie. Ela mesader lo ta'anotav va'orech lefanav et adinim u'megale leyachid dino. All you're doing is you're arranging for him all his claims he's going to make. So when he comes to court, he'll be able to make his claims in a more masudar way, answer the dayan according to what the dayan's looking for in a sense. That you're not supposed to be doing. Now, going back to our questions. You're not supposed to help someone make claims in Beis Din. Rather, a person's supposed to come to Beis Din and speak naturally. The rule of Ein le Dayan ela ma she'inav ra'ot means that when a Dayan comes, he's hoping to expect to hear the person just make his claim freely. Say what he has to say what's in his heart. And the judge judges him according to that natural speech that a person makes. When someone comes to Beis Din and he has in mind, the judge is going to say this, and I'm going to answer this, and my friend is going to claim that, and I'm going to answer this. Even if what he's saying is true, but it's not natural, it's not going to be a true representation of what his claim is, and the dayanim won't be judging according to something true, but they'll be judging according to some stanza, some like created, falsely created claims that were made, even if they're true, but they weren't worded in a true way. So that is the pshat of that line in the Mishnah. And so going back to our questions, that it could have just said, Al tiyu orchei dinim. It would have been much more straightforward. What does it mean? Al ta'as atzmacha, don't make yourself. And then what is the kaf? Ke'ochei. We're not talking about judges here, we're talking about like lawyers. Don't make yourself like a lawyer. That's not saying don't be a lawyer, which is what the way the Mefroshim here are explaining, don't be a lawyer. Rather, it's saying don't make yourself like a lawyer. So we need to understand what the atzmacha and the ke'ochei dayanim is referring to. That's point number one. Now, the second part of the first Mishnah here, here again, there's a lot of extra words that don't need to be here. It would be much easier just to say, Kishiyu ba'alei hadin lefanecha yiyu karushaim. I took out two words there. I took out the word omdim and I took out the word be'inecha. Both those words are unnecessary. Why does the Mishnah say the phrase omdim and the word be'inecha? Two extra words unnecessary. It could have just said, when the ba'alei din are in front of you, then they should be wicked. Until like wicked. I'm not bothered by the obviously they're not really wicked, but they're rashayim until you've clarified that. Here the kaf doesn't bother me. So what is the word omdim doing there? What is the word be'inecha doing there? And also a small deal. Usually we say ba'alei hadin. We don't say ba'alei dinim. That's not a phrase that's normally used. What is this Mishnah coming and adding this phrase ba'alei dinim? It sounds like it's saying something different to the usual ba'alei hadin. There's only one din that we're referring to here. They're coming to a court case. What is ba'alei dinim referring to? Okay. So we're gonna on a pshat level. So we'll explain that first. On a pshat level, we'll go with the Rabbeinu Yonah, but all the Meforshim explain the same way. That we spoke earlier about being dan l'kav zchut. You're supposed to judge everyone favorably. That does not apply in a court case. If a judge would hear what people are saying, and he'll say, "Oh, probably what he means is this. He didn't do a bad thing, and he probably didn't mean to say he's a bad person. He probably meant a good thing." And the judge will start judging favorably. And then he'll be adding words into what the person's saying. He won't be hearing the true claim. And when we spoke about it there, we were speaking about someone who's not in a court case who has to defend himself. There, you were looking at someone else, see him doing an action. You don't understand what it is. You're not judging him. You're just saying, how could I understand deeply that what he's doing is in line with the will of Hashem? But over here, when you're in a court case, what you're looking for is to fix a wrong. You're a judge. You have to return the money. You have to apply Kadosh Baruch Hu's halacha. It's not a case for judging favorably. Judging favorably is when there's no nafka minna for you. And therefore you judge favorably. Here there is a nafka minna. You need to judge the person. And therefore over here we say, consider them both to be rashayim temporarily, in order that you won't start making up claims in order to find him favorable, and then you won't hear the accurate details of what took place here because you'll be reading it through your lens of being favorable. And therefore, on a court level, the pshat here is that when you initially judge the case, consider them both wicked. But once they've accepted the din, once the case is over, then the one who is proven innocent is innocent, and the one who's proven guilty, you should presume that he's been chozer b'tshuva, and that he's accepted the din, and that everyone are now tzaddikim. In fact, the mitzvah of v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha also applies to someone who was hung when he was killed. That you shouldn't leave his body hanging overnight. Because you have to give him respect. What do you mean? He's a terrible person. He was sentenced to death. Yes, but he's done shuvah. We presume he's done shuvah, and we view him as a zakaim. That's the Mishnah on a pshat level. Now I want to read the Mishnah again on a totally different level. And this first part is based on the Chida. Al ta'atzmacha ka'orchei dayanim is not referring to lawyers, because it says ka'orchei dayanim. Meaning we're saying that you shouldn't act like a lawyer. In a different respect, you shouldn't act like a lawyer. In what way would a person act like a lawyer? When would that naturally happen? A person, when he views the world, he has a bias towards himself. We spoke about it's healthy to have a bias towards other people and to be dan l'kav zchut, but it's not necessarily healthy to have a bias towards yourself. Our major question we're asking on these two Mishnayos is that these Mishnayos shouldn't really be in Pirkei Avos. They should be in Sanhedrin. It has nothing to do with Musar and Avodas Hashem. There are laws and guidance for a judge in a court case. But when we're learning Pirkei Avos, we're looking for how is this relevant for us in our Avodas Hashem. That's the way it's being taught, why it's being taught here in Pirkei Avos. So the chida that takes it beyond the standard being a judge in a court case, and he says, how do people judge themselves? And I'm adding now, there are two ways people judge themselves. When a person wishes to have a recognition of his own self-esteem and how to judge how he's doing and who he is, how to recognize his own inner world, there are two ways people do that. And the first Mishnah, Mishnah Ches, is the way people judge themselves from within. And the next Mishnah, Mishnah Tes, is going to be how people judge themselves from without. But either way, both these Mishnayos are referring to how a person is a judge of himself. How a person judges himself. So the first part of the first Mishnah. Al ta'as atzmacha ka'orchei dayanim. What is the way of a lawyer? What is the role of a lawyer? A lawyer has the end goal already in mind, and he fits everything in to suit his agenda. He has a client. His client is paying him. He has to make sure that his client wins the case. And therefore, as an orech din, as someone who's arranging the law, arranging the court case, he's finding out, how can I set up this court case that my client will be favorable in the eyes of the judge, that my client will be favorable in the eyes of the witnesses. That's the role of a lawyer. So we do that as well. We have an agenda of us always being vindicated. We are always right. And we could be in a situation, a scenario with someone where if we were in the fight with them and we're debating with them, if we were on our side, we would see how our side makes sense. But if it happened to be reversed and we were in the other person's position, then we would be totally taking the other person's position. Why? Because we act as lawyers. We act as our own lawyers. So it's saying like this, Al ta'as atzmacha ka'orchei dayanim. When you're coming to judge yourself, don't put your position, don't put your atzmacha, yourself, your inner self. This is answering the why it needs the word atzmacha here, because we're not talking about regular lawyers. We're talking about our essence, how we judge ourselves in our essence. Don't make your essence like the way that a lawyer works. That you already have certainty that you are correct, a certainty that you are in the right, and now you're fitting in all the evidence and you're fitting in all the logic in order to prove your point while you're correct. It's a very interesting point when you think about it. Let's give an example. Let's say you have a company and you have one person in the company who his position is in charge of the money. He's the gizbar. And you have someone else in the company who he's in charge of creating new ideas and new thoughts. And now these two people, by their very position, are against each other. The one in charge of the money, he's saying, we only have this amount of money. This is our budget. This is how much we can spend. Another one's saying, but I have a new idea, and I have another new idea, and I have this project, and I have that project. So their very roles, their very jobs are working against each other. Does that mean that they are against each other? No. If you would make the guy in charge of the projects in charge of the finance, and then one in the finance in charge of the project, then they would switch positions, and they would be fighting the other way around. Why? Because each of them recognizes they've been given a position, and they have to defend their position. The one in the money has to defend the budget. The one in the projects has to defend innovation, advancement. We're moving forward. So there's a lawyer perspective where you recognize that your position is correct and you're trying to make everything else work. What that means, Lamaisa, on many levels. On the level of a chavrusa, it means that if you have a thought, which is your initial thought, then when you come to prove your position in the chavrusa, then the idea of truth will go out the window. And you won't even be willing really deeply to hear what this other person has to say, because you know that you're right. And you're going to go about proving how you're right. And you'll be proving from this line in Gemara, it doesn't exactly fit in, but it could read that way. And the next line, Rashi, which doesn't really fit in, but you could fetch it like that. And you're going on and on, and you can see that it's not making sense. And you can see that your chavrusa's position fits in so beautifully into the words. But your position is yours, and you have to make it work, no matter what. I'll fight you to death. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. My client is correct. He's vindicated, whatever it will be. So, al tas atzmacha ka'orchei dayanim. And when it gets into a conflict with you and a sibling, with you and a parent, with you and there's an idea of like the principle of the matter. That principle of the matter causes machlokas. It causes people not to speak to each other. It's not worth it. That principle of the matter is the mindset of being a lawyer. A mindset of my client is going to be correct. And we have that way of judging ourselves from our inner world, and it's unhealthy. So says the Chidah, on a personal level, not on a judge level, but on a court case level, on a personal level, don't be like a lawyer. Don't be that whatever your goal that you have set for yourself of you being right justifies throwing truth out of the window, justifies trampling on other people, justifies embarrassing yourself where everyone can see that you've made a mistake, but you're still holding on to your ego to prove why you're right and trying to find other things to make it make sense. That's point number one. Now, point number two. This is going a little deeper. People have thoughts. Their inner thoughts. And their inner thoughts sometimes come and they criticize. And those inner critical thoughts sometimes are coming from a healthy place, where it's coming to build you, where it's coming to say to you, you didn't do that so well that you could do it better next time. Like, for example, let's say you interact with someone and you're all apologetic at the beginning of the conversation. Oh, I'm really sorry for this, I'm sorry for that, and I should have called you earlier. And you spend the first 3-4 minutes in the conversation putting yourself down. Now, when you come then to interact, okay, you finished your apologies, thank you, and it's not comfortable. It's not healthy. You have to work on it for a little while until you can get back to just being normal relationship discussing. And you think yourself why did I spend so much time apologizing? He wasn't interested in it. He wasn't upset with me. I was just ruining myself and putting myself down. And then when I came to the conversation, it wasn't healthy. So you say, you know what? That doesn't work well for me. That's a critical voice, but it's a healthy critical voice. Let me try next time I talk with him, even if I feel like I want to apologize at the beginning for whatever reason, let me just start a healthy conversation. And just get into what's going on in my life and just get into the conversation, start talking. And you try it the next time and it really works. And then at the end, if you feel like you want to throw it, and you can throw it at the end, you can say, oh, by the way, I'm sorry that I was so late in getting back to you. That's not a problem. And that's fine because you had help. That's a critical voice, but it's healthy. However, there's also, which you may also be familiar with, a critical voice which is unhealthy. And that's the critical voice which comes and starts bashing you and beating you up and showing you why you're worthless. And there's no room really for you to say, well, how can I grow from it? And how can I learn from it? And I can move beyond that voice. The voice stands against you. And it stands in front of you and opposes you. And it makes you feel worthless. And how are you supposed to know when these two voices come to you? When the inner critic comes to you, it's sometimes healthy and it's sometimes unhealthy. And this whole Mishnah is about judging yourself from within. So comes along Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai, and it's coming to give us guidance on when we hear the inner critic, how do we know when it's healthy or not healthy? So let's go through and making those diukim that we made before and see how beautifully the guidance that it gives us on this matter. First diuk we made was, it doesn't say Baalei Din, because it's not referring to a court case only. Don't get me wrong, there's a pshat which is true and there's a remez. They're both correct. But we're making diukim for the remez. So Baalei Hadin is referring to Baalei Hadin in a court. But Baalei Dinim are always considered the opposite of Rachamim. Dinim is where someone comes to be critical. Dinim is like Midas Hadin. So Baalei Hadinim could be referring to those who are the masters of din, the Baalei Dinim, those who come and criticize you, and they're your inner thoughts who are coming and saying why you're worthless and why you're stupid and why you're an idiot and why everything you do is not successful. Baalei Dinim in your inner world. Now, what's their way? The way of the Baalei Dinim? Omdim lefanecha. Omdim lefanecha. They stand opposing you. Omed. They stand tall and proud and they stand in front of you. And they are coming to criticize you and therefore they're omed. A healthy thought, like the next one, is niftarim milefanecha. But once you've thought it through, you understood the point it has to make, then it leaves. A healthy, positive, constructive thought is one that comes to build you. And when you've learned from it, it leaves you. An unhealthy, critical thought is one that comes and stands against you. And even if you try and rationalize it, it's still there in your face, not giving you any space. Omed, omdim lefanecha. And that's the diak of the word omdim. Why it has the word omdim there? Because it's referring to thoughts that harm you and bash you and don't give you any space. Now it has an extra word, you be'enecha, kerushaim. Those critical thoughts, when do they harm you? When you give them credence. When you say, that thought is true. I am an idiot. I'm really foolish. Why did I do that? Why? I don't know. I guess I'm just really an idiot. I guess really I am. I guess really I'm a Russian. I guess that's the way I am. I guess really I'm just not worth it. I guess when you, be'enecha, in your eye, you give them credit. When you give them credit by the way you look at them, that's what gives them power. And they're able to stand up against you. Comes Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai and says, you can reveal them for what they really are. You can uncover them from their hidden place. Kerushaim, they are the wicked ones. They are saying that you're wicked, turn it around and recognize they are the wicked ones. How do you know to declare them as wicked? Because they're standing in front of you and getting in your way, not giving you the space to grow from them. And therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai, you have these negative thoughts. You don't know if they're true or not true. Maybe you should listen to them. How do you know? If you see they're not giving you room to breathe, but they're omed lefanecha, then declare them for what they truly are. They're the Yetzer Hara. They're coming to harm you. They're not constructive. And reveal them as Rishaim. Speak to them. Say, this thought is not helping me. This thought is wicked. This thought is a Russia. It's coming to beat me down and harm me. I'm not going to align myself with it. I am not going to agree to it because Beinecha, you can choose how to view it. I'm not going to align. If it says I'm an idiot, I'm going to say, I know I'm not. It says, I'll prove it to you. Say, one second, is this constructive? No, it's not. It's a lie. It's false. It's not true. Rishaim, these are wicked people speaking against me. But if a critical thought comes to you, and when you contemplate it, then it leaves, meaning you think to yourself, that was a foolish way to act. You're right. Next time I'm going to do better. And then the thought goes away. It doesn't hack at you and bang at you and make you feel worthless. Niftarim, it leaves. Niftarim milifanecha. Now you know that's a healthy thought. That was a God-sent thought. You be'enecha kazakaim. That thought you give merit to. That thought you give credence to. It's your healthy, guilty conscience coming and telling you, don't behave in that way. There's a better way for you to behave. You take it into account, you grow from it, and it leaves you. Niftarim milifanecha. It goes away from you. That's a good thought, because that one you can give credit to. So that is a deeper understanding of Rabbi Yehuda ben Tabai. Now let's go into Rabbi Shimon Shetach. And he is following his partner. He's also giving an understanding of how to view yourself, but not from the in. All what we discussed until now is from the inside. That was all when the way you judge yourself and the way you judge your inner thoughts from within. Now we're going to go from the outside. I just want to say one story quickly before we do that. On a pshat level, the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells the story behind this Mishnah, which is fascinating. Rabbi Shimon Shetach, it's a whole story of how he got to this, but he discovered that there were 80 witches, mechashafim, who were acting in witchcraft. Mechashafa lo tichiyeh, it's forbidden for them to live. So he wanted to make a plan of how to kill them. But the trouble was they do witchcraft and it was hard to catch them. So he gathered together 80 bochrim, 80 boys, and he brought them outside the palace that these 80 witches were hiding inside. And he told them all to bring a talis and put it inside a kad, inside a container. Very interesting story. They come and they hide outside, and then Rabbi Shimon Shetach, he knocks on the door. And the witches open the door and they say, yes, who are you? What have you come for? And he says, I'm a witch. And they say, oh, really? Prove yourself. He says, what can you do? What witchcraft can you do? So Rabbi Shimon Shetach, and it was a raining day. It was pouring rain outside. So Rabbi Shimon Shetach says, how many are you here? And they said, 80. He said, okay, well, I will bring now 80 bochrim who will walk into this room and they will all be wearing a dry talis. It's raining outside. They go, okay, let's see you. So he says, 1 second. Then he walks outside. He says, okay, chevra, take out your talis from your container, put it on, and come in. Now, witches, I'm not going to go into this now exactly why, but witches only have koach to do witchcraft when they're standing on the ground. They have to mechubar lakarka. When they draw their black magic from the earth, if you like, from the gashmius, from the chomrius, but when they're lifted up from the ground, they're menutak, they're disconnected, they no longer have the power to do witchcraft. So he told these 80 bachrim, he said, come in, then the witches will let you in because they will see that you're wearing a dry talis and they'll think that it's witchcraft. So the 80 bachrim came in, they each picked up one of the witches. Either they were male witches, if you're worried about Shom and Nagia, or they were female, but it was allowed because of the halacha to kill them in this situation. So they came in and they picked up the 80 witches, and then once they were all off the ground, then they no longer had power against Rabbi Shimon Shatach and the Chachamim, and then he brought them out and he killed them all. Killed the 80 witches. Now, that's round one of the story. That's not the relevant part yet, but that's the background. When the families of the 80 witches found out that Rabbi Shimon Shetach had killed their family, they wanted to have nakama, revenge against him. So they brought 2 false witnesses against his son. And they said that his son did something that was chayiv misa. And they came and they planned their edus very, very well. And the based in Paskan that Rabbi Shimon Shetach's son was chayiv misa. And Rabbi Shimon Shetach's son was being brought out to be killed. And he made a declaration, the son made a declaration. He said, if I did this act, then may my death not be a kapara for me. But if I didn't do this act, then may my death be a kapara for all the averos that I have done, and may the sin be on the heads of the Eidim who testified falsely against me, that my din will go on them. That was his declaration that he made as he was going out to be killed. And the Eidim heard him, and they were petrified. Because even though they were evil in one respect, but they recognized the power of the koach of a bracha, or klala, or a chacham, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's din, they believed in that. And they ran to the Beis Din and they say, we retract everything we said, we were lying, we did it all only because we wanted to take revenge against Rabbi Shimon Shetach. And the Beis Din said, Keven shehigid, shuv eino chozer umagid. Even though we know that you are taking it back, the law is that you can't take it back. And if your din was accepted in Beis Din, it has to be carried out. And the son of Rabbi Shimon Shetach was killed. And in light of that, came Rabbi Shimon Shetach and said, Shimon ben Shetach omer, have a marbeh lachkor et eidim, for the sake of my son and all other people who will be in a situation like him. Don't go easy on the interrogation. Again and again and again, clarify and ask questions. Now, when it comes to chakiras, there are only 7 chakiras that we ask. But when it comes to bedikas, what color was he wearing, and next to which tree was it, and all kind of behind-the-scenes questions, and those you can elaborate on greatly. And like Rabbeinu Yonah here says, the more you question and the more you question, then bezeh tigaleh hasod, and the secret will come out. Ki berov devarim, because when they say things again and again and again and again, they get confused and they don't remember their story, and you add on details. Lo yechdal pesha. They won't be able to retain their sin that they've done, and they eventually will reveal the sin. So on a pshat level, what it means is, through a very sad story that happened in Rabbi Shimon Shetach's own family, is that when someone's holding in a secret, then there's only a limitation to the secret they can hold, because it's all made up in their mind, but it's not the depth of truth of their subconscious, what really happened in the inner world. However, once you start talking to them, you talk to them out your subconscious, and it gets to a place which is too real that they can't make up anymore, and then it brings out that inner world. If anyone's interested, there's a man in Lakewood, I think his name for a minute, who he wrote a book. He's a psychologist from Lakewood. He wrote a book which, he wrote some Torah books, but he also wrote non-Torah books, and one of his non-Torah books is written for interrogators. And it's to teach, I think it's called Never to be Lied to Again, something like that. His name will come to me in a second. Lieberman, something Lieberman. So he wrote Torah books as well. He's got one Torah book called Real Power. He's got one on Bechira Chovshis. But he also has a non-Jewish book, non-Jewish orientated book, which is teaching you as an interrogator how to ask questions in a way that will reveal the truth. Exactly on this Mishnah. It's fascinating. If you ever get a chance to read it, they have a few pages for free online if you want to look it up. The second part of what he's saying is, and then we're going to get to the depth behind the Mishnah. The second part of what he's saying is, have a zahir b'devarecha, be careful in your words. Shema David Liebman, Dr. David Liebman. Shema mitochan yilmadu l'shaker. So we're going to give here a pshat. I saw this pshat in the book Arugot HaBosem, and he also asked the question, like, how does it make sense that the Mishnah is saying things for Dayanim? It's not relevant to us here in Pirkei Avos. What's the depth behind it? And the Arugot HaBosem says the following idea. He says, the nature of man is that he judges if he is a worthy individual, which is the same theme as our last Mishnah, from events that happen to him in life. And if he sees that he's wealthy and he's successful in business, then he says, it must be I'm a good guy. And if he sees that his life is successful and things go his way, even if you like, if he would be a ganav and he would be successful in his geneva, then he would say, you see how much Hashem loves me. He's enabling me to be successful in all the things that I'm doing. Or if he makes a good joke at someone else's expense, then he feels inherently good in a sense. He says, oh, look, I was successful in my doing it. It must be that it was worthwhile, a worthwhile endeavor. And a person starts judging himself by his success. The way that Arugot HaBosem makes it is he makes those his Eidim. He makes his Eidim, those who testify about him from the outside, not from the inside like the last Mishnah, but those who testify about him from the inside become all the events in his life that seem to work out. Money that he earns, friends that he gains, success that he makes. That's his judges that he makes on himself. And therefore he learns to judge himself and his inherent worth by all the good things that happen to him. If he's a man of charisma and he's a man who can get away with things, he'll say, it must be I'm doing good because look, I'm getting away with it all. And that's the way he judges himself. Comes Rabbi Shimon Shetach on a deeper level and says, you should know that sometimes Hashem sends you success not because He is agreeing with what you're doing, but because He wants to give you the reward already here in this world and get it over and done with. Sometimes Hashem gives you success because He wants to give you a nisayon. He wants to give you a test to see if you're going to become arrogant because of it, or if you're going to be generous as a result of it. Just the fact that things go your way in this world is not a measure to know that what you're doing has inherent worth. It could be that you'll endeavor on something very worthwhile, and Hashem will determine that it's not successful because of other plans that Hashem has. And therefore, the real Eidim are the Eidim who say, are you keeping Torah? Are you keeping halacha? Is what you're doing in line with the will of Hashem? And therefore, have a marbeh lachkor dadim. Interrogate and interrogate yourself. Are you judging yourself by all the external events in your life and saying my worth comes from my success in my life? You should not judge yourself in that way. And it continues and says, "V'havei zahir b'devarecha," and be very careful in your words, because if you speak in a way by saying I'm so successful, I'm doing so well, look at me, look how well I'm doing, you will convince yourself of it. You will convince yourself of your inherent worth. You tell your fortune to this one, you tell your fortune to that one, and the more you speak about how worthy you are and how good you are, you're convinced by it. And you, within your own inner world, your Eidim that you are looking at in your world, the glasses that you are viewing yourself through will become false. There will become false lens through which you view yourself. It will be an unhealthy and untrue false lens. So to summarize, we started with questions on the Mishnah in the details. We asked the major question of why are these two Mishnayos in Pirkei Avos, they're really laws for Dayanim, and we learned that they're actually ways for us to judge ourselves. We have two ways of judging ourselves, from within and from without. The way of judging oneself from within, a person has to be careful not to have a bias where he's always right, and if he hears that he has inner thoughts that are critical, if they are standing opposing him, then he should recognize them as false. Declare them as Rishayim and not ascribe to them. But if he sees that they move beyond him, if he sees that once he addresses them and he fixes himself, then they're Pturim and they leave him, then he can recognize there was Zekayim, there were good, healthy thoughts, they were there constructive to build him. That's from within. And from without, a person should be very careful not to judge himself by all the success that happens in his life, because if he speaks in that way and looks in that way, he'll fool himself, he'll be mishaker to himself. Rather, the only true way that a person should judge himself is through looking in the halacha and seeing if he's fulfilling the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu through Torah and mitzvahs. And that way he'll have a healthy self-image and a true recognition of who he truly is. Yeshar koach.